The plainest Jane. This is one of my favorite comments here. She says, I loves me some black, and she said, loves me some black news. She says, is it just me, or does anyone else get tired of seeing people that don't look like them delivering info about them day in and day out? I'm your girl, the plainest Jane, and let's see what's happening in these virtual streets. You ready? All right now. This could be a crazy ride. I'm warning you now. What up and welcome back, everybody. We are on live number 2 for the evening. All right. What up and welcome back. It's your girl Jane, the plainest Jane, and I serve in the form of black news and celebrity entertainment here on my channel. Now, it's come to my attention that, and because I do really enjoy celebrity entertainment and black news, they're both a passion of mine, and you know, sometimes it's just about the balance. So I just finished talking about a was celebrity, right? And now I want to talk about this is not necessarily black news, but it is black dialogue that I feel like is very necessary in this digital landscape, specifically the black digital landscape. I feel like a lot of words get mumbled and jumbled together. And so you read the title. Let me know if you've seen this trending online and how you felt about it. Okay, put it one in the chat if you've already seen some of this debacle, the comparison between Chloe Bailey and Halle Berry, and how one is white passing and one isn't. Put a 1 in the chat if you've heard or seen this dialogue over the last 2 days, and put a 2 if you have no clue. But I do feel like there's some education that needs to be had about this subject, because I do think that there's some ignorance, and not in a bad way, right? And whatever context you're used to, ignorance can mean you just being flat out intentionally obtuse, stupid, dumb, whatever. But in the dictionary sense, it really just means you don't know. And I want to create some clarity and actually have a dialogue about this. Okay. Sunstar said, yeah, I know, because I be on Jane Twitter. Thank you. Y'all know I'll be on Twitter. I'll be on Twitter with my Twitter fingers, just typing away. But so if you didn't know, Halle Berry she played a white woman once in a movie. And now this conversation is being had that she's white passing. All right. And that Chloe Bailey is not white passing. And I think that there's some confusion around the subject and the classification of said word and all of the different nuances that are woven in to this very layered discussion. And so, like I said, I want to have some dialogue to unpack some of this. And I want to see what you think. I think I might open the phone lines just to see if there's anybody who has something to say, something to add, and to share their thoughts on the situation. Okay. So hit thumbs up. You know, you come in here, you got to pay your fare. Ain't nobody riding my bus for free. It's 72 of us in here. We need 72 thumbs up. Right now, we only at 31. What's good? Hey, yo, Molly, what's good? Hit the thumbs up, okay? It's free, and it helps to get this out into the algorithm, okay? See, because I can sit back, and I can laugh and joke, and I can talk about mess and have y'all laughing y'all asses off. And then other times, I want to have more enlightening and edifying conversations, especially about our race and the things that get confused in the words and the virtue signaling and the buzzwords that just get thrown around and really just lost in translation. And I think that the confusion amongst all of these words that are so tightly condensed with one another online, it causes a lot of division. So I want to provide some information and some clarity, and that's what we're going to do. This evening, okay? So I think we got time to do 3 lives tonight. So y'all are in for a treat. This is the second live. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and turn it to all so that you don't miss any of what's going on. We did a live prior. We're going to be doing a live afterwards. Okay. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. Shout out to my channel members and a special shout out to my moderators. Okay. So let's get ready for takeoff. I hope y'all had a good day. Hopefully y'all already ate dinner, sip something, wrap something, roll something, smoke something, do whatever you need to do, snack on something, and sit back and relax. And let me take you for a ride on the bus, okay? Let's get ready for takeoff.
The plainest Jane. This is one of my favorite comments here. She says, I loves me some black, and she said, loves me some black news. She says, is it just me, or does anyone else get tired of seeing people that don't look like them delivering info about them day in and day out?
All right, so let's talk about how this conversation started. All right, this conversation started, and obviously, as I stated in the beginning, Halle Berry did play a white woman in a movie once, and we're going to unpack all of this so that it makes sense and it's cohesive. So here's a tweet from, honestly, a content creator that I really love and respect, and that's why I'm not really bringing a whole bunch of jokes with this video, because I feel like a lot of people are confused in using some terms interchangeably that really just, they're not interchangeable. And there's a lot that has happened. Excuse me. This tweet has blown up. It's been seen when I left work around 5 o'clock. This tweet was seen 6.6 million times. Okay. It had over 2,000 quote retweets, and they was on her rooftop about it. Okay. I can understand why, but some of the language was uncalled for. So here's the tweet in response, and I kept her name out of it, but someone said, Halle Berry getting back shots. Okay, Halle Berry getting back shots. That's the role that got her an Oscar, right? And what they're referring to is Monsters Ball. Halle Berry, she's always had a slim frame figure, body's always been right and tight. And Monsters Ball, she did have some scenes where she was showing a little something, alluding to some things and so on and so forth, right? Intimate scenes, graphic scenes. And she was awarded for it, right? And so someone responded and said, Halle Berry is not black, she's biracial. She's white passing. Plus, she was Holly Weird's favorite. Megan Good just talked about how hard her career has been by taking these type of roles. Chloe will learn the hard way. We don't make up the rules. Baby, when I tell you social media went into a complete and absolute tizzy, okay? So much of a tizzy that this actually made it to TMZ. Now, let me show you a screenshot of this article here on TMZ. You can see it right here. Chloe Bailey, new sex scene kicks off colorism convo about Halle Berry. All right. And so basically, okay, I mean, the tweet was a part of it, right? But it technically started with obviously like the sex scene, right? So there's this new show that I haven't had a chance to tune into yet. And do me a favor, leave a 3 in the chat if you have seen Swarm, and put a 4 in the chat if you haven't. And let me know if you like it or not. So as you put your number in the chat, let me know, are you feeling the show? Are you not feeling the show? What's going on? Because I'm considering tuning in, because social media just keep talking about it. Now, I did get a chance to see Chloe Bailey's sex scene, because obviously Twitter have everything, baby. Everything. Okay. And so I did see it, and it was hot. It was hot and steamy. It was, and it was back shots, right? And so a lot of people feel like, okay, well, that's sleazy, but what Halle did, it wasn't, or when Halle did it, it got her an award. But for Chloe, it's not gonna get you that. Like, it's not gonna get you that. Okay. Hey, Tayron Malik. So I'm considering watching it, and the sex scene was with her and what's his name, Damson Idris, I believe, from Snowfall, the one who's Lori Harvey's new boyfriend. And so, in a nutshell, right, basically, like, she getting her cheeks clapped, right? That's what we say in slang. She's getting her cheeks clapped in comparison to Monsters Ball, right? So this is where the conversation comes from. A lot of people feel like Halle doing this sex scene is sleazy, but I'm sorry, Chloe doing this sex scene was sleazy, but Halle's wasn't. Halle Berry's wasn't, right? And this conversation can get kind of confusing, because Chloe Bailey has a sister named Halle Bailey, and then you've got Halle Berry, who's also wrapped into this. So stick with me. If you know, you know. Now, the thing about is Halle Berry white passing, and we need to do some education on what white passing is, because there's a difference. There's a difference between white passing and white presenting. And there's some other terms that people kind of try to use interchangeably as well, right? Let's start with Halle Berry's complexion. All right. You see, I have some B-roll here on the screen. You'll see just a bunch of Halle's pictures, just going through Halle and Chloe both. All right. What I want you all to do for me, and this is like the biggest question that I want y'all to vote on. I know sometimes I give y'all numbers. I told you put a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4. Now is when it really counts. Put a 5 if you think that Halle is white passing. Put a 6 if you think Halle is not white passing. This I need to know from you. This I need to know from you. And honestly, what I'll say right here is, because this is a place where we're going to learn and have open conversations, there is no wrong answer, because I'm going to provide a lot of education and a lot of background to help people understand. So like, don't be afraid to have the wrong answer. That's why I'm not coming on here with an attitude, rolling my eyes like, how could you possibly think? Like, no. Okay, no. Some people will be ashamed to share what they think about things if people were going to come down on them hard. And this is way too important to be shaming people who are genuinely confused. And we need to have a better grasp, and we need to have a better understanding of how to use these terms. Okay. So, okay, I see a 5. I see 2 5s. I see 3. Okay, that's the same person that put a 5 again. Okay. Okay. Got you. Okay, so I see 2 5s and the rest are 6s. Okay. Because I understand some people's understanding of light skin and dark skin, in which this is far more nuanced and textured than just a skin complexion, right? I had a woman on Instagram arguing me down, telling me that I'm not light skinned, that I'm brown skinned. And I'm like, are you blind? You know, I mean, the woman is telling me that I am brown skin and that I'm not light. And I'm like, and I know that there is some confusion between what brown skin is. Tanya TKO will go live and she'll talk about it. And people have a different definition of brown skin, caramel, dark skin, medium tone. So it's definitely subjective. Some of this stuff is subjective, right? Right. I'm clearly light skinned, and that's not me trying to, like, colorism, it is a thing. But I'm not about to claim to be, I'm not Rachel Dolezal. I'm not out here claiming to be some browns. I'm not out here claiming to be something darker than I'm not. I know what I am. Right. And so, does Halle Berry's complexion change over time? This is where we are with the conversation, right? Her complexion does change over time, right? And this happens with people who are fair-skinned. I won't even start speaking for brown and mid-tones, because I mean, it's obvious that Black people get tans from time to time, right? And not no fake tan. I'm talking like out in the sun, but I can speak for fair-skinned people. Now, I haven't been to Orlando in a while. Like, I haven't been on a 1-week vacation down south like I used to in a while. Okay. And when I used to go on that vacation every single year, I would come back just hella gold. Like, my skin complexion would change. You'll get that tan in the summer, and you lose it in the winter. Like, you'll look really pale in the winter. And it can be a contrast for some people, you know? It's a contrast, especially if you don't live down south. Now, if I lived in Florida, it would be different. I probably would have a more of a consistent skin tone. Me being light skinned, and Halle Berry is another light skinned person. Okay? And so I don't live down south. I live right in the middle. I live in Maryland. And so Halle Berry, to speak, yeah, I've seen, as you can see in this B-roll, Halle Berry, you know, there's times farther back in her career where she's been darker. There are times where she's been lighter. That happens. It happens. It's a natural thing, right? Not to mention, I've seen plenty of people in my sphere, my friend circle, my family circle, where they were, my father being one of them, actually, he was more of what I look like when I get really tan, when I go on a vacation down south for a week. And he even had an afro. But over the years, sometimes lighter skinned people, they get lighter as they age. The older they get, like that tan just, it's not coming back, if that makes sense. So you'll see some fair skinned people who are 55, 65, and you'll look at their pictures from when they were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, and they looked more honeyish, right? So sometimes lighter skinned people, they do lose that pigment over time. I'm speaking for light skinned people because that is me. I'm not pulling this out my ass. I'm not talking about people that I've watched for a year or two. I'm talking about me, my family, the people that I've seen in my circle that I've known for decades. Okay. So, and I can't wait to go back to Florida. It's been so many years. Call me a child, but I love Disney World and I love Universal. All right. I love Universal Studios more than I love Disney, but that's a whole nother thing. Fair or light-skinned people do go through seasonal or yearly skin changes depending on their exposure to the sun. That's the bottom line. And so here's the difference, right? Someone says it depends on medication too. That's a good point. Depending on the medication and combination of the sun, you might look a little lighter or darker. Good point. And if you're sick, you might also look a bit lighter, right? There was one time when I was sick and my mother was like, "Oh, you look pasty." I'm like, "Oh." She was being honest, but whatever. So there is a difference. There's a difference here, all right, between white passing and white presenting, all right? There's a difference between white passing and white presenting. And I want to go through, and I saw that there was one person in the chat who actually said it, but I want to actually go through this in depth because colorism is real. I'm not about to sit here and do this video and pretend that it's not, but there's so much more to being fair skinned, or should I say there's so much more to white passing than your skin tone. It's a bit more nuanced than that. And so we need to peel back the layers. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super sticker. I do appreciate that. Colorism is really ugly. Halle Berry has never claimed to be white. She can't help this. She's biracial. Absolutely. Really good point. And I do appreciate you making that point, right? Because a lot of people don't even understand what white passing is, right? So, hey, Admis. So we went over the tweet, okay? And the original tweet, we can put it back on the screen. It sort of insinuates that biracial is equivalent to white passing, and that is not the case. It's not the case. So here it says Halle Berry is not Black. She is biracial. White passing. They're not interchangeable. She might not have meant it that way. Okay. Right. But there are some people that are white passing who aren't even biracial. Right. And vice versa. There are some people who are biracial who aren't white passing. Look at the prime example of J. Cole versus Logic. Both of them have one Black and one white parent, but they're presented totally different. J. Cole is Black presenting. Logic is white presenting, right? Logic is that rapper that Joe Budden is always on his heels. I think Joe Budden won a piece or something. I don't know. But biracial and white passing are not interchangeable. They're not the same, right? You can be one without being the other. And in some cases, you can be both. But you can't paint everybody with one brush, right? And right, to be clear, as a lot of people are saying, Halle has never claimed that she was white. Okay. Yeah, J. Cole was biracial. Okay. Hey, Admis, thank you so much for the $19.99 super chat. I appreciate that. Okay. Shout out to you. I do appreciate that. So continuing on in the conversation, passing, right? White passing is actively passing yourself off as a white or a European person in order to gain access to the right, the privileges, the benefits of white people, right? to escape the oppression or the negative circumstances that you might be experiencing otherwise. That's why you're trying to pass and escape that, right? White presenting, right, is the look that you look a certain way on the surface, but it doesn't mean that you're trying to blend in order to acquire the rights or the treatment of the whites. And so you can be white presenting, but not white passing, because white passing means you're trying to pass yourself off as white for whatever reason. And to make it simple, to make it really, 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 really simple for you, white presenting is subjective. It's totally subjective. And I'm going to show you a woman that's actually white presenting, because Halle Berry is not. She's not white. She's not white passing, right? White presenting is subjective, but white passing is a choice. Again, if you go out in the world and you pretend to be white so that you can get the benefits, the rights, and the privileges of white people, then you are actively trying to pass yourself off as white, as opposed to the presentation that you show up as. Let's take Rachel Dolezal in reverse. Rachel Dolezal in reverse was trying to pass herself off as Black, despite the fact that she is not naturally Black presenting. Does that make sense? Rachel Dolezal made it a point and did all this extra work, always got in micro minis and kinky twists and a curly wig and a spray tan to pass herself off as Black. And she put in work to do that. But naturally, she is not Black presenting. Do I need to bring up the pictures to help everybody understand? Because I can bring up the pictures. They're not that far. I got a video in the works about Rachel Dolezal coming up. It was supposed to be the third video this evening, but instead, I'm going to just wait until I have a lot of energy tomorrow to do it. But Rachel Dolezal, by all means, in her natural state, most of us know, if we've seen it, she is not Black presenting. Okay? But she put in a lot of work to be Black passing. Does that make sense? So let me bring it up real quick, just so you all can see. Because there's effort that goes into passing yourself off as a different race. Whatever the effort is, whether it be your look, whether it be your skin tone, whether it be your hair texture, whether it be your makeup, whether it be your speech, your syntax, your diction. There's so many different things. Your class, how you upkeep yourself, your nails, your car, who you hang out with, who you do and do not speak to, especially, back in the day. All of those factors, class and social ranks and all of those other things, they contributed to how you were perceived in society. And so this is a woman who is white presenting on the left, right? This is who she is naturally on the left. White presenting, but she's Black passing over here on the right, because she made herself darker, spray tan, bed tan, UV tan, whatever tan, curly wig. She puts in that effort. She studied the language that we use. And she did a lot to blend in with Black people. So this is this example in reverse. But do you understand what I'm saying? White presenting is subjective. And even Black presenting is subjective. But white passing is a choice. She made a choice to try to pass herself off as a Black person. She made that choice. It was a conscious choice. It's been about 10 years and she's still making that choice, which is why she's still not respected and she's still being dragged by her golden retriever bundles. Because spray tan lives matter, right? Right? Spray tan lives matter. Okay? So this is just to help you all understand the difference. So, I know that there's always been a great amount of kitchen table talk when it comes to the Black community. You might be sitting in the hairdresser or the kitchen, which is totally different than you would speak out in a professional way. Hell, I don't speak at the hair salon in the kitchen table and with my homegirls the same way that I sit and I speak online. You get a little bit more loose, you get a little bit more blunt, you get a little bit more raw. And just because you might be having a conversation, say such and such could pass as white, such and such could pass, just because you think that they could pass as white or Black, or the opposite of what they are, something that they are not, that's subjective. And that's really how they present themselves. So that's a word in a sentence. But just because you think that they could pass as something that they're not, it doesn't mean that they are Black or white passing. Right? Is that starting to make sense? And to the point, Halle Berry has never tried to pass herself off as a white woman. Ever. Ever. And she's had a lot of ethnic hairstyles, even ethnic clothes. Okay, that was one photo shoot she did with, if you glance at it and you almost thought it was Whitney Houston. It was back in the day when like Ebony and Vibe magazine was a thing, and she had her hair in a way where the bump out. You had the bump under at one point, and then you had like the bump out back when we had like the spritz and the pump it up and stuff like that. So Halle Berry has never ran from being Black or disassociated with being a woman of color. Never. And so therefore, she's not white passing. But even if you want to, play semantics and say, okay, well, she's white presenting. I will say that in her later years, her color isn't as poignant or deep as it was when she was younger, right? When she was a young 20-something-year-old whippersnapper. But again, as I stated earlier, the lighter skinned people, I've had this is probably the lightest I've ever been, to be honest, because I ain't been on vacation in years. But if you look at my pictures from high school, I was darker than this, right? So we go through those changes as fair skinned people, but especially when you get up there in age. Yeah, I'm not 50-something, but I do know, and I've seen, and sometimes even the hair texture changes too. She's not as dark. Look at this. She's not this color anymore. But whatever it is, I can't explain the genetics or whatever, but it's changed, right? She's not as dark as she was, but she's never ran from it, right? So listen, if you're looking for ways to support the show, consider just hitting the like, thumbs up button. Come on. We sitting here getting to the real. I can sit up here and talk about crazy at Jaguar Wright all day and night. 600 of y'all in the chat. I'm sitting here talking about blackity black but black topics and really educating us so that we're not misusing terms. And I need to get the same love. I'm not asking y'all to send me a Cash App, but you can send a Cash App to $THA, thePLAINESTjane, right here on the screen. Okay? So just support the channel. It's free. All I ask is that you hit thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more syrup in the form of Black news and celebrity entertainment. So, okay. Remember how dark Halle Berry was? Yeah. Iron Will said I'm damn near. I go, all right, now I'm gonna have to really go on vacation because y'all playing with me. I am light as hell now. All right, I ain't been on vacation in a while. Sue me. Okay. I have not been on vacation in a while. And I used to go to Florida every single year and be by the pool all the time. It's been so long since I've done that. So let's get to the point where Halle Berry played a white woman in a movie. Okay. Hey, the Counselor's Kitchen. Long time no see, friend. Halle Berry played a white woman in a movie once. Okay. All right. Do any of y'all know the name of the movie? Quick fun fact. Do any of y'all know what movie it was when Halle Berry played a white woman in the film? Real quick. Do y'all know what it was? Okay. Y'all don't know when? Let's get into it. So I'll show you this picture. Don't nobody know it? Y'all don't know? I'm going to see if anybody can guess it first. Okay, I see. I thought somebody was calling me a queen. I'm like, God damn. Okay, thank y'all. I'm a queen. Queen by Alex Haley. Okay, cool. So let's get into this photo here. All right. Why would the picture ever show up that size on my screen? Okay, there we go. All right. So, epic transformation. Halle Berry plays a white woman in a new film. All right. Cloud Atlas. And let's just take a look at it. Right? Does this look natural to you? Does she, despite how skinned, despite how fair-skinned Halle is, and despite the modern day accusations that she's white passing, this doesn't even look natural. Why? She does look like Madonna. Good observation. I didn't think about that. Yeah, she does a better version. Madonna looks worse than that. And how the hell? It looks horrible. It makes me think that this film was like sketch comedy or something, because she played like several different characters in this film. You know how Eddie Murphy played a million characters in the clumps. So check this out, right? This is her playing a white woman, but catch this. She wore a prosthetic nose. They put a prosthetic nose on her. If you take a look, you can tell. They gave her some freaky contacts to wear. These contacts look scary, right? They had to put this white, very pale makeup on her. They needed to pull a white chicks in order to pull it off, and they still didn't pull it off because it doesn't look natural. You know, when you glance at people, and look, I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. I'm not. But you know, regionally, some areas that are naturally dark-skinned, they have this level of colonization or just these Eurocentric beauty standards that have them in a chokehold. And they are all really close to the equator, but they all bleach their skin, all of them. And it looks unnatural. Sammy Sosa, for example, right? Have you ever looked a person in their face, Lil' Kim being one of them too, but looked them in their face and saw that something ain't right? Like, you're supposed to be darker than that. And you be confused for a second. And then you glance at their hands and you're like, oh my gosh, your hands are 8 times darker than you. And you look at their face and something looks palish, something looks pinkish about it. Like, yes, they're technically lighter in the face like they wanted it to be. And it's like, it's a cultural religious thing. So I'm not picking at it. I'm just stating the observation. And there's something about their bone structure that's still telling. Even if you were going to bleach your skin and still have this pinky look to you to make yourself 7 times lighter than what you are, and even put makeup on top of that and contacts, your bone structure is still a dead giveaway to the fact that you are not white. You can perm your hair, you can bleach your skin, you can do all that stuff. You're still not going to look or even pass as white. Have you ever just looked at somebody and like, something's off? Are they sick? Why do they look pink? But their hands are the color of Biggie Smalls, but their face is the color of Sammy Sosa. Let me pull up Sammy Sosa, because some of y'all must not know. Some of y'all must not know. There's something extremely abnormal about the way extremely bleach gone too far looks. Look at this. And you can even look at his face, despite how light he is. I mean, hell, that might be the color of Caitlyn Jenner's face, but he don't look white. He looks crazy. He looks crazy. And look how far from dark to that he went. It doesn't look right. Here's another one that's real bad. This looked like it's supposed to be on SNL for sketch comedy. Like, what's this? Huh? Why you do that, brother? This right here looked like he was playing a white face for the Addams Family, trying to look like a vampire right here. Like, what's going on? Brother, you okay? Oh, he do kind of look like Gacy. I saw that on Netflix. So, you know, it's a thing, right? And I feel like getting back to the point of did Halle Berry play a white woman? Yes. That does not mean that she's white passing. I'm gonna show y'all a woman that's actually white passing in a second. But okay. And again, listen, make sure y'all hit thumbs up on this video. Don't make me pull this bus over and had to cuss y'all out. Because it's what? It's 200 people here and 100 thumbs up. Come on. Y'all, don't make me nobody. Hey, thanks for letting me keep you connected and in the know with what's happening in the Black world. Don't forget to smash on that like button for support and for more Black news. So I do think that. Hey, thanks for letting me keep you. Child, not I think that. I do think that, or more that I feel that we've reached this point of having this conversation about Halle white passing because these terms often get confused, as I was saying earlier in the video. Okay. We get these terms confused because people think that they're interchangeable and they are not. All right. So featurism, texturism, colorism, biracial, white passing, all of this stuff has been jumbled together because we have these color-loaded convos. We have these color-loaded conversations on social media so frequently, which oftentimes can be divisive as hell. May I add, it can be divisive as hell. Okay. It can. Okay. And I think that we have these conversations so much. We like every time you log on to Twitter is somebody having some either conversation that doesn't need to be had or people making false equivalencies and comparisons, and it's tiring. And so I think that a lot of people are just on autopilot, slinging these words around without thinking or even comprehending what they mean and the nuances and the difference between these things. And also, I know for a fact that this generation is overly critical and they throw buzzwords around like confetti. That's just what they do. And there's also a lot of virtue signaling that happens as well. This generation is so hyper aware to a fault. So hyper aware. I heard one of my faves today say, I put my hair through trauma. My hair was going through trauma because of the presses. And I'm like, girl, just say heat damage, not your hair going through trauma. It's a good and a bad thing. It's such a double-edged sword how hyper aware we are. And the sentiment, I think a lot of people, I think their heart is in the right place, because we want to have more conversations about colorism and how it affects women in all places, not just the music industry, not just artistry, people in the everyday world working 9 to 5s. How come, a Black woman with natural hair and a Black woman with permed hair get treated differently in the workplace and have different probabilities of being hired based off of, hair or skin tone or features, but sometimes it's too much, right? So we're hyper aware and it just does too much. And so what I want to do is I want to get into what a real white passing woman looks like. That's what we're going to do. And y'all know I love Black news. I love Black dialogue. And y'all know I loves me some Black history. And y'all know I had to tie some Black history up in here in order to connect all this. So drop some pancakes in the chat. Let's get ready. We really don't have much more to discuss, to be completely honest with you, right? But y'all do need to see what a true white passing woman looks like, because Halle Berry is not it. Okay? Amazing woman, talented woman, beautiful gowns. Okay? But she's not white passing. And that's what this conversation is about. It's about spreading and really creating some dialogue. So share this video with someone. Please feel free to comment down below in the comments. Even if you disagree, let's just have a conversation. Let's have some community and not shame people who may be confused about these terms, because it can come to be a lot. You know, when I was in elementary and middle school, there wasn't nobody talking about featurism or texturism. Colorism was a thing, right? But featurism and texturism and you know, and it's just so much that you become overloaded and you start to just lump everything together. Right? Oh, if you biracial and you light skin, you white passing. No. Okay. So beautiful gowns. Okay. Kiki Wyatt could pass. I don't know. Kiki Wyatt has those really big eyes, and that's no shade, because my eyes are big as hell too. Okay, I ain't got the camera zoomed in as I usually do, but you know, but her attitude and her swag, she got too much flavor, I feel like, to blend in, right? Maybe if she was just taking a still picture and did something with her hair, I guess. But and again, you know, the difference between white passing and white presenting is subjective. White presenting is subjective. So some people may think that she could pass, but I'm gonna show y'all somebody who really, okay. Someone said Meghan Markle. Arguably, right? Debatably. Yeah, that one is truly on the cusp. But again, you know, it just depends where you are. If it's somewhere up north where those white folks don't get a lot of sun, maybe not. But maybe if she was somewhere further down south where you do find some people who are white and have a bit more color than the ones up north, then, you know, maybe she could. You know, it truly depends on so much. Again, your verbiage, your speech, your articulation, your word choice, your clothes, your hair, your job, your social circle, your tax bracket. There's so much that feeds into that. So nonetheless, I want to talk about a woman who is black passing. Okay. Hit thumbs up, drop pancakes. We'll be right back. Let's get into this Black History Anthem, and then let's get to it. Now, let's spend a little bit of time with our ancestors, or at least listening to them, because you know they always tell us you don't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. So let's get into a little bit of Black history with this Black History moment.
You in that crowd.
They got me in the system. Why they gotta do me like that?
And I know I can be what I wanna be what I wanna be.
We've got love for y'all, which I don't cover.
Just
Go about the city.
Get down. All right, so we're back. I want to show you this woman, and she was actually quite revolutionary in the 1930s, believe it or not. All right. Despite her being white presenting, she refused to pass. And we're going to get into that history and the education about her in a second. But this is what a true white passing woman looks like. Okay, do we see this? This is different. This actually looks like she is white presenting, right? But she refused to pass. Now, let's talk about her for a second, okay? Her name is Freddi Wilson. She was a performer, a singer, and an actress in the 1930s. You know, she did the thing. And she had green eyes and a really light shade of skin that truly belied what Black or African American people, quote unquote, looked like back then. Okay. And she actually went on tour with Duke Ellington and his band. And of course, they encountered racism everywhere they went, right? Especially deep down in the South. And, you know, Jim Crow era and all that other stuff. Okay. And Freddie Washington, this woman right here, she would sometimes, and this was the only time she would slip into white only ice cream parlors to buy ice cream for the entire band. Okay. So she was looking out for her people. She was looking out for her homies. And that's the only time that she used it to make sure Duke Ellington and the rest of the Black people that she was on tour with could have some cool treats, right? But she never, I do have a color photo. I see somebody in the comments saying I want to see a color photo. I do. I'll get to that in a second. But she never passed for a social or economic gain. Just to make sure her homies could have something while they were on the road having a good time. Okay? Or, you know, had something to eat outside of whatever they gave to quote unquote Negroes at that time. So she refused to pass for social or economic gain. It wasn't her thing. So she was born in Savannah, Georgia. Her family fled during what they call migration, which is when Black people were trying to flee from the Jim Crow South in search of new opportunities in northern cities. Her father was a postal worker. Her mom was a dancer. Okay. And not an exotic dancer, an actual trained dancer. Okay. And but we get back to her aesthetic and her stance and how it all ties in. And like I said, you know, white passing means you are essentially disassociating with Black people, because if you didn't want to stand with them and you were disassociating and trying to pass yourself off as white, then you were shunned. The Black community shunned you, because once you decided that you wanted a white pass, you couldn't hang out with the Black people if you wanted to, and neither side wanted you to. If you're trying to white pass, especially in that day and age, you can't hang out with Black people no more. Because if the whites see you, then, and the Blacks felt like going over with them, since you so bougie, since you know everything, you got your fucking degree. And if you got caught trying to white pass when you were exposed by the white community, you were double shunned. Okay. And Freddie Washington, she knew all of this, and she understood that she had access to white privilege and a life where she could avoid discrimination and being treated like a Negro, but she didn't want to turn her back on her own race. So the year was 1934, and she starred in a film alongside a white actress. Okay. And what's really powerful about this is she played a role that was not stereotypical or subservient. In other words, back in the 1930s, yeah, there were films, there were movies. But if you were Black and you were trying to do a film or a movie, you were playing a maid or a housekeeper or some sort of subservient role where you were oppressed. You were serving white people. That's it. You didn't have any other options, right? But Freddie Washington, she had this background that exposed her to the arts. And she was talented in so many different ways. She was a performer, a singer, a dancer, and she was an actress. And there were some Black communities that were starting to thrive with production and things of that nature. So she got this, I wouldn't say once in a lifetime, but once in an era, right? Opportunity to play a role that wasn't subservient. She really played the reverse of what her life was. And allow me to explain, right? Let's take a look at this image here. So I'm going to zoom in and read this to you. And so I saw some people saying that they wanted to see colored photos. So this is an article. It says, what happened to Freddie Washington? Well, when Freddie Washington was 49, she starred as Peola. And this was a light-skinned Negro girl who wanted to be white in the film Imitation of Life. Okay? and she acted out a reverse sketch of her own life. The gray, blue-eyed actress, and her eyes turned green when she was angry. She refuses to hide her racial identity. And she says, quote, because I'm honest and because you don't have to be white to be good, end quote. And so she ended up marrying a dentist. And if I just could explain to you all really quickly, basically what's happening here is she played in this film the opposite of her life. She played a light-skinned Negro, which she was, who wanted to be white. And that was received different ways by different audiences. And that was the opposite of her life, but the theme still hit home to Black people anyway. It meant something to Black people, although they didn't really like accept it in their real world reality. But that theme they took as something different, if that makes sense. So that was the first time that that had ever been done in Hollywood, well, like ever at all on screen with a Black person. And admittedly, Black person was seen on screen where they weren't being subservient or serving white people or being oppressed. Okay. And so, like I said, Black actors have very few opportunities in Hollywood. And the movie, she, like I said, she had a white friend in the film. And this white friend, she was very blunt. She was very blunt, and she dealt very frankly with interracial identity, passing as white, and the similarities and difference between Black and white women. So, and again, these are themes that were never explored in mainstream Hollywood. And like I said, what made this film so special is that it essentially treated the stories of its Black and white characters as equally important. That's the real milestone here. That's the real milestone here. Because any of the other films prior to that, Blacks were trash and whites were important, period. There was a hierarchy between a level of importance and regard and just humanity that was granted and given to people of color of sorts, right? And so this was a big deal to Black audiences in particular because they saw her struggle to accept herself as a poignant cry for equality. But white audiences interpreted it differently. They only saw a Black person struggle trying to be white. And this is a film that was released at the time when they still had whites only and Black only movie theaters. So it hit different for the two different audiences. It hit totally different. But this was something that she did. And would you know that this is something that actually pigeonholed her a smidge? Because she was white presenting. She could get away with dining at white only establishments and purchasing goods at white only places. But once she made it known that, no, I'm Black and I shouldn't have to act white in order to be good or to be accepted, she couldn't get any other work in Hollywood after that. Like, she sat without work for a while. That was a conscious decision, a bold decision, a brave decision. When we're talking about survival at a time when, baby, it was hard for anybody who was of outward color and anybody who was admittedly of color. And so she still went on to do great things and to make sure that she could give back to other aspiring Black people who were interested in the performing arts and things of that nature. There's a lot of history on her. If you go to history.com, there's a lot of, because that's a whole website. If you go to history.com, there's a lot of information on her and other people. I'm actually interested in seeing this film. I've read like 11 movie reviews on this just to make sure I understood the film. But I want to go back and watch it for myself. So there's a huge difference. And again, matter of fact, let me show you the title of this one article that I used to reference, just to really drive the point home about the difference between white passing and white presenting. So you take a look at this. Let me make it bigger. Fair-skinned Black actress who refused to, quote unquote, pass in the 1930s in Hollywood. So when you look at this context, she refused to pass. White presenting, yes, but white passing was something that she wasn't willing to do in order to advance herself. The sneak snacks to the homies, yeah. Where else was they gonna get ice cream from? But she refused to pass. So white passing is a choice. White presenting is subjective based on the person, based on the region, and all those other factors that I named earlier, right? Not to beat a dead horse. So, stuff like this, I think that these dialogues are really important. Let me just drop the link in case there's anybody that wants to call in. Okay. Just to see. Don't feel obligated, but if you really have something on your heart, just make sure you have a sturdy internet connection and know you don't have to come on you don't have to come on camera. All right. As a matter of fact, you more than likely you won't be on camera. We're gonna take it phone call style. So I really admire the bravery and the boldness that Freddi Washington exuded. Okay. I'm trying to see. She in 1930, because this film came out in 1934. She couldn't get any more work between 1934 and 1937. And she helped found what became the Negro Actors Guild of America. And this was a group that advocated for less stereotypical roles and better working conditions for Black actors. And she also became a drama critic. Okay. She was paving her own way. Like, okay, I can't work, but I know the arts. So she became a drama critic. And she was writing theatrical reviews for African-American newspapers and served as a casting consultant for films and theatrical productions that concerned race. So she was always at the intersection of race, film, how we are portrayed in the mainstream media. That was something she always made sure she had a hand in because she truly cared. And if she didn't care, she would have used the white privilege that she had access to based off of the fact that she was a white presenting person. So she said that in 1945, she said it was suggested that I might get further by passing as a French or something exotic. But to pass for economic or other advantages would have meant that I swallowed whole hog the idea of Black inferiority, end quote. So kudos to her for sticking to her guns and doing what she needed to do to give Black people the hope that they needed on screen to understand the cry for equality that was expressed throughout the film that she did in 1934, although it was the reverse of what her real life was. Okay. So this was a really, really, really interesting thing. I mean, like, I was just so astounded. I just couldn't even tell you how much in awe I was when I found this story today. And this is what pushed Rachel Dolezal back, because my original plan for the last couple of days was to come on here and talk about Rachel Dolezal. There's some things that I need to get off my chest about that, because I just seen the Netflix documentary, I guess you could call it, called The Racial Divide. And baby, and there are some people who really think that being transracial is a thing. Whatever race I feel like I identify as is the race that I am, because that's what I feel in my heart and in my being. And Rachel's not the only one living in that world of delusions of grandeur. Like, she's not the only one. Transracial is an actual term, as if it's real, as if it exists, as if you can choose your race. And I want to talk about it. But I pushed it back because this woman, she butt the line. She's far more important. And we'll be talking about Rachel tomorrow. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a backstage members only first, and then maybe like edit it and put it out for everyone else. I'm unsure. But this was iconic. And I felt like the legitimate Black woman comes first and not the spray tanned wannabe Black woman. Okay. Yeah. Strength and integrity. So yes, I did take some very detailed notes on Rachel Dolezal and really just the privilege to think that you can just go in between different races. I feel like I'm Black. I mean, like your privilege, that's white privilege. You thinking that you can slip in between and disrespect Black people, that's something that we can't do, right? A Black person can't say, okay, I want to be white tomorrow. I want to be Asian tomorrow. I want to be like what, like we can't slip it. And the fact that we can't do it and you can, that is you leveraging white privilege and saying, well, I want to be Black. I was born white, but I want to be Black. And so I'm like, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. But I will say Rachel does have a story. She does have a story. Her life was pretty fucked up before she even got So I get her plight, but I don't get her decisions. And I don't get her commitment to wanting to continuously disrespect Black people and what we've gone through because she feels she's transracial and she really thinks it's a thing. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay. So we have a caller. Let's go ahead and be polite to our caller. You all drop some pancakes in the chat.
The following video is broadcasting live, and thank you for being my studio audience. Thank you for hitting thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for more Black news, celebrity entertainment, and a splash of controversy.
Hey, caller, you're live on the air.
Oh, hey, what's going on? That's me.
Hey.
Nice talking to you. I really enjoyed your presentation. That was awesome.
Thank you.
My only pushback is what is it to be Black? Like I've heard people who said, "Oh, you talk white before," and not saying that I agree or anything, but what is it to talk white or to talk Black? And is that a image issue for yourself, or would that be something that you perceive as being Black or as being white?
I think that there's a huge misconception in articulating yourself correctly and people calling it white, right? Because there's always been like this learning curve and this difference in resources and education. So if we were to go back in time, Black people sounded dumber, legitimately dumber, because we were cheated. It was illegal for us to learn. And so I think that it's ignorance and not in a negative way that people say you talk white. Now, because it's not. If you speak correct and you have great syntax, great diction, great articulation, that's just you speaking great. That's not like being educated is not limited or strapped off to just white people. And I know some people say it, I know what they mean, but it also it's a harmful stereotype to think that Black people aren't allowed to sound smart. We're not allowed to be articulate. That's not a talk white or Black thing, despite how often that figure of speech is thrown around in our community. Now, have I code switched before in and out of work? Absolutely. Sometimes I'm feeling lazy and I just want to sit back and I want to use Ebonics. I want to use African American vernacular English. I don't feel like toning up my speech. And I'm driving to work listening to Nuck If You Buck. That's it. But I get into work and I'm, hey, how are you? Just because it's code switching. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's not me speaking white because I get to work and I code switch. Like, no.
True, I agree. I think it's not such a thing. I mean, because that's like saying this music is Black music or this music is white music. And what would that mean? Does it have to have killing in order for it to be Black? Or is it supposed to have honky dory shit if it's supposed to be white? So it's kind of like, when you start speaking on colorism, the color lines, and when you feel as though you are a different race, and feel like, oh, you can be biracial or transracial or these type of ideas are all stemming from self-hatred and from not knowing that we are one human race. And if you were to say for instance, a so-called black person who is Haitian versus a so-called black person who is Nigerian, what will be the difference? Or African American, what's the difference?
Okay, so to start with the music aspect of what you were saying, I think it comes from origin, right? So we could I'm sorry, I'm just taking notes because you have brought up a couple different, you said Haitian. Okay. So I think it's about origin, right? Like white people didn't invent hip hop, they didn't invent rap. That's not to say that they can't participate, but you know, if they rip it off and start doing the bad baby thing, and there comes a point in time where there is a line in the sand, right? Where like Bad Baby went from being Catch Me Outside, how about that, a flat out, like that's another Rachel Dollars out to an extent, but not as bad, right? Bad Baby was able to benefit from selective outrage being currency. I'm sorry, from outrage is social currency. Rachel Dolezal was not. And that's a totally different thing. But black music and white music, it's very loose. It can get nuanced if we go down and get to the root of that. But if you catch white people trying to rip off rap and hip hop and take it back and not give no credit and then act like they made it. Like, you know, you got white girls online putting their hair in bandeau knots talking about, I invented this new little thing. I've got my hair in a little, like, wait a minute, that's a black thing. You didn't invent that shit. Like, so white, black music, so on and so forth, it's very loose. It depends on the context, and it depends on if somebody's really trying to play semantics or playing your face about it, because then you'll catch a white person that's just doing the most, or a non-black person that's doing the most, and you'll say something about it. Oh, I'm white, I can't rap. I'm not saying you can't rap, but are you giving credit to who invented this shit, or are you pretending that you made this flow or this beat or this tune or this rhythm? Like, that's the difference. As far as, you know, black Haitians or black Jamaicans, that's a whole nother conversation about the diaspora, because some of them don't even identify as black, and some of them have a disdain towards black Americans. So a lot of times they separate themselves from black Americans. So I can't speak about, you know, black Haitians or Jamaicans or whatever. I can't speak to their plight because I'm not that. But I do see them disassociate from black Americans a lot. And that's on them. You know,
I mean, what do you see as a difference? Not saying that you know, are Haitian or anything like that. I'm saying from the outside looking in, so to speak.
The difference is them not wanting to associate. The biggest mistake that black people make is wanting to keep people inside the club that clearly don't want to have anything to do with it. And so when I hear certain people or groups of people say, I'm not black, I don't want to keep black, I'm not trying to unpack it. I'm not spending time on it. You don't consider yourself to be black. So when I have conversations about black people and black topics, I'm not thinking about you, and I'm not wasting energy on it, because you've already made it known that you don't want to have anything to do with the black American, and I'm a black American. I don't, there is no difference. I'm not spending time unpacking their disassociation. There's so many different things that we need to be worried about as black people, and we're already so divided as is. And when somebody's trying to divide themselves, I'm not trying to pull you back up on a boat that you're clearly trying to fall off of. So I don't feel no way about it.
You don't see the division within ourselves. I mean, colorism is a internal divide.
Right. So are you talking about colorism or black Haitians not identifying with black Jamaicans or so on and so forth? I'm confused. Well, first of all, how do you identify?
I'm sorry. My fault.
Yeah. So how do you identify?
I missed your question. You said, how do I identify?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, as a black man. But what I'm saying is that term, okay, there's now people who are saying, oh, I'm FBA or I'm ADOS or I'm, you know, it's different terminologies all for one term. You get what I mean? Like, and so if I say being a human being is all encompassing, and then that's when we start to make the divides. Like, so the difference between a black person and a Haitian or a Nigerian is that cultural difference of knowing your ancestry, and sometimes not. And so if you don't know your ancestry, more than likely you would just say, you know, oh, I'm black because that's what my people told me, and that's what I was born as. And there's no effort to change that or to understand more about the human diaspora. And so whenever I tell people, yeah, I could say that I'm black, but if dogs could talk, which dog would you let say the N-word? You know what I'm saying? So and if a dog were to be able to talk and he said, actually, I'm a Rottweiler, do you get it? Do you get what they're saying? Like, and I'm not saying that to say that they need to be disassociated or that they can't be included in the group with other, you know, when they're talking about black dogs or black people or whatever. What I'm saying is that that factor that they are using to distinguish it is more than likely not something about skin tone. It's about ideology. Like, you'll have black women who will wear blonde hair, stringy blonde hair, and, you know, will say they're not doing the same thing as a white woman who wears braids. And so if you don't see yourself as assimilating or as mimicking your counterparts, and then what do you see it as doing? It's not celebrating your Afrocentric features. If you are bleaching your skin, that is taking away from it, if anything, and trying to whitewash your history. And so your offspring having a certain color or a certain hair texture, if that's something that you feel as though is important to you, those ideologies, that thinking, I think is more detrimental than calling yourself black. I don't know
When
if
you
that
said
makes sense.
mimicking your counterparts, what counterparts?
Like if you're a black woman mimicking a white woman, like or like we talk about Rachel Dolezal, is as a white woman who is mimicking a black woman or pretending to be.
Okay, so pretending for Rachel Dolezal, she wants to be oppressed so bad, right? She has all the privilege. She wants to be oppressed because it playing that victim role and wanting to. She grew up with a couple of black adopted siblings, and she also wanted to spite her parents too because they didn't believe her about something that happened to her. And white people trying to be black is not survival, right? Black people getting a weave, laying their edges down, and conforming to Eurocentric beauty standards, whether they dibble and dabble or they do it all the way and do the context too. That is a means of survival. In order to, and it has been over the years now, where we've reached the point in time where we're breaking barriers. The Crown Act isn't even legal in all 50 states, which makes it illegal for an employer to discriminate against you for the natural texture of your hair. There are still several states, and I believe there are more than 30 of them, where if I showed up with my locks and they could tell me, once you comb them out or cut them out or something, then we can hire you. And it's completely legal. It's completely legal, right? As a matter of fact, it's still legal to discriminate against hair here in Maryland, right? And when I found out about that, it was like 7 years ago when I decided to lock my hair. And it was before I decided to lock my hair. And I decided to do it anyway. We're living in different times. We still haven't been completely weaned off of that. And every employer isn't as progressive or accepting as that. So, you know, when you talk about code switching or speaking white, and it's really not speaking white, it's just speaking proper, right? it's a means to an end. It's a means to survival. And these are some of the things we've seen our parents do. You know, I remember every single Take Your Child to Work Day. And my mother was born in 1964. And I remember going to Take Your Child to Work Day and hearing the difference every single Take Your Child to Work Day, and hearing the difference in how she spoke at home and how she spoke at work. It was totally different. And that's what they needed to do to survive. Not to mention how the creamy crack was more prevalent then. Perms were more prevalent then. So a lot of places, in order for us to have access to work and resources and to not be shunned and outcast so that we can provide for our families, a lot of the things that we did, it was in order to survive. It wasn't just, I'm trying to be white, so let me go get a blonde weave. Like, no, I'm trying to be white. let me get a perm because I want to be white. No. And, you know, sometimes we didn't even have the knowledge to understand how to even work with our hair. This hair, thank goodness for the natural hair movement, even though it's difficult to work with. You know, a lot of people really just didn't understand. I don't know how many women or girls you knew who growing up, their parents put a perm in their hair because their parents just didn't know how to handle it. 4C tightly coiled hair, and their parents started putting perms in their hair at home, and all the hair fell out. Nobody knew what they were doing. Oprah Winfrey is another really good example. She got her first opportunity. She was, you know, one of the first Black newscasters. And she was told at WJZ here in Baltimore, you need to get a perm in order for you to work here. And with her having the ambitions that she had, she did, but she went and got a French perm and all of her hair fell out. It was a means to survival. If you really wanted to cross barriers or do something, as opposed to, you know, and especially doing something different, you had to do that. I mean, have you not seen Malcolm X? When they used to perm their hairs, Sam Cooke used to perm his hair. Sam Cooke was one of the first people who stepped out and decided to wear an afro. But he was only awarded that opportunity to trendset that way because he was so popular and he was so diverse. Sam Cooke was in Black and white living rooms. And that popularity, Sam Cooke was charting right up underneath the Elvis. And then he started hanging out with Elvis. Hell, even Elvis started wearing his hair like Sam Cooke. And at some point, Sam Cooke became friends with Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. And he said, you know what? He got involved with the civil rights movement. He said, you know what? I'm going to be me. I'm going to wear this fro. And Sam Cooke's mother didn't want him to do that because Sam Cooke's mother felt like, what is my child doing on TV with his hair looking so wild like that? So wild like that. So, you know, it takes certain people in certain events and certain eras to break down different barriers and expectations to what is and isn't acceptable. And most of the businesses that we work at aren't owned by Black people. So sometimes you got to play a little bit of the game, whether it's how you dress. So I can wear locks, but I have to dress a certain way at work, right? And in other places, it's different.
So you feel like assimilation is necessary, and that so colorism is necessary, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's necessary, but it has been a means to survival for years. For years.
Right. So in order to survive, I mean, survival, that sounds dire, as if, you know, if you don't do this, you will die. Like,
no, not you will die, but you'll have a lower wage or a lower way. You know, it's been a means to survival for a very, very long time. And just because people wake up one day and say, we shouldn't have to do this. Yeah, we shouldn't. And some of the things we still aren't, and we still haven't shed all of those things. This is why over in Nigeria, they're still bleaching their skin like crazy. Should they have to? No. But there's some things that still have them in a chokehold, and it's regional. It's regional. You don't have to if you don't want to. You don't have to. You'll be dealt different cards. But again, it takes different moments in history for people to take a stand and decide, I'm not going to do this anymore. But it doesn't just happen like that. So do I think it's necessary? No. but it is a part of history that we can't just flick a switch and snap the fuck out of it. If that's the case, racism wouldn't be here, right? If we could just snap out of wanting to do the things that we needed to do in order to survive, we could flip the switch on everything else and all other forms of repression.
Exactly.
But
I
that's
agree.
not possible. So
It's possible.
it's no,
We gotta
no,
remain
there
hopeful.
is
You
no
know what I'm
switch.
saying?
You know
It
why?
could happen.
Because we're not unified. There is
It
no
could
unity.
happen. We could unify. You never
We
know.
could, but we're not there yet. And you would be
But I'm saying it's
be
possible. That's all
ignorant
I'm saying.
to think that there's a switch that we're going to be able to switch. And you know what? Some people and don't even think that when you see women with weaves that they're trying to be white. Oh no. A lot of times protective styling is a thing. And there are some women who have hair longer than the wigs that they're wearing, but they would prefer to have their straight backs underneath and keep their hair protected, snatch their wig off at night and put they do-grow underneath and keep wearing it because it's easier for them and they don't want to perm their hair and they're not going to. And it takes a lot to deal with hair. Black women, when it's wash day for a 4C haired woman, that's a 6-7 hour thing. That's not something we can do every day, as opposed to putting that wig on, taking it off, and getting a weave. So, to say, well, the weaves and this, if you don't really understand Black hair and what we have to go through in order to take care of our hair, then you don't get it. But protective styles are a thing.
I get what you're saying. I'm not saying anything against those women who, feel as though they have to wear that, or even if they just want to, if they just like the style. I'm just saying the reason behind it, the thought process behind it, it may stem from that colorism. And just speaking on that, Halle Berry, in order to get that role, she had to put on that makeup and wear whatever, a contact, all that. And it's certain roles that I guess you're saying you wouldn't get if you didn't do those things. Or same thing for nowadays in, society. If you work in corporate America.
About 6 years ago, when, a matter of fact, I wasn't, no, it was more than 6 years ago. It was like 8 years ago, because it wasn't locks I had long twists. And I went to apply for this job, and they told me, once you take them braids out, well, that's when your start date will be. And I'm like, and it was legal. I went and looked it up online. That's when I found out about the Crown Act. It's still very much happening till this day. And I mean, think about Jay-Z's hair, right? Jay-Z's hair showing up to an interview compared to a guy with a Caesar, a fresh, but cut next to him. How you think that's gonna go?
Right, but at one point in time, in order to survive, I guess, or whatever, Jay-Z had to wear the New York styles, or he had the part, or he had the short haircut. And not until you get to a point where you're making the type of money, or where you are in a position where you don't have to.
That's my point. Like you arguing against my point, but you also proving my point. Jay-Z has the ability and the money. He doesn't have to bend over backwards. He's not waiting for nobody to hire him. So
No,
he can
I understand. We're agreeing on certain things, but I guess where I disagree is at some point it's no longer for your survival. At some point you doing that because that's what you into. That's what you like to wear.
Absolutely not. Once you see the odds, because I'm trying to zoom in on your picture and figure out, like, what are you looking like that you think this way?
Oh, those is locks.
Yeah, I don't know where you are, but you got to think about, you go on a certain amount of interviews as a person, and you start looking at the people that are next to you, and you get a certain amount of no's, and you starting to see who gets it. You might change it because it's like, shit, I need a job.
I understand that. At one point in time, and I think Richard Pryor made a joke about it. He said guys were getting bowl cuts to look Chinese so they could work on a railroad. And so I understand. I'm not arguing against your points. What I'm saying is, okay, at some point, can we agree that you get to a point where you no longer have to assimilate and try and act or be or think white or whatever you want to call it?
And again, it's not all thinking white. It's not all thinking white. I mean, when you think about these old 90s hairstyles from back in the day, some of them weren't even acceptable. And those were with perms, the French rolls and what our parents wore back in the day. Like it just wasn't. Like that's not even being white. That's part of what we like, but that's not trying to be white. And so everybody doesn't have the privilege. Now, maybe if you have a college degree and you have a lot of education, but a lot of us weren't afforded that. And a lot of us don't have the same access to resources and education and knowledge in order to be able to say, you know what? F it. I don't care what y'all think. I'm aware that some people are really living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you're privileged and I made my decision because I'm like, you know what? As a matter of fact, I was serving tables. I was bartending at that time when I made the decision. But everybody doesn't have, like, you making it seem like everybody can come together and just say, well, I'm not going to do my hair like this because whatever. Everybody's not like that. There's some people working minimum wage jobs trying to feed their families, struggling. And so if it's about cutting their hair or perming their hair versus locks, they're going to make that choice to feed their family, period. They don't have time to sit around and sit on the couch and whatever and say, I'm not, until somebody gonna hire me with this hairstyle, I'm not gonna work. Some people don't have that. White people have that opportunity. Well, if they don't want me to wear my Toms at work, if I can't wear my Crocs, I'm not gonna work. They might have that. All of us do not have that privilege. That's a privilege to be able to make that choice. Everybody don't have it. At some point, maybe, yeah.
All right, I agree. It was nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. All righty, we got another caller up here. Let me read this super chat real quick. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Famecom Network. Arabonics is essentially a different language. It is just now being accepted. White House spokesperson was saying the terms such as day one and OG at the last press conference. Okay, her beady-eyed self. That lady is a trip. Okay, so we got our last caller on the line. Yeah, I was looking at you in the private chat. It said think white. Like, why do we got to think white? Like, who's thinking white? You know what I mean? Like, I respect the protective style. Before I got locked, I was into protective styles, you know, whether it's there's so many different ways you can do. I used to wear wigs before I got, you know, whatever, just because I'm like, I just don't have the time to put heat on my hair every morning. I had a shortcut. Like, it's not about thinking white. Like, who wants to be white, right? I'm proud to be black. Like, I feel like we are royal people. Like, nobody's trying to be white, but you know, you make certain choices. You buy certain clothes. You might wear your hair or present yourself. Hell, some places are based on, you know, really how you look and how you do your makeup. You know, I've been certain places and it's like they have a certain type of makeup that they want you to wear, a certain type of clothes. You go to the strip club, don't matter what color you are, it's a certain type of body, you know, you need to have. So it's not about thinking white just because I think her phone went out, her phone disconnected. Like it's not about thinking white if you're doing things that are still considered quote unquote the European beauty standard. You know, it's not, you know, and I think that that's very narrow-minded. But even if you know, you go back, you had Malcolm X talking about the white man and his hair was permed, right? Before he went to the afro. So it's like you know, you can call out certain aspects that may be a part of Eurocentric beauty standards and still maybe and see, there's a difference between a perm and a relaxer, but you know, it's nuanced, but it's really not difficult to understand. Our parents did certain things to survive and they didn't have any choices. Okay? Like they didn't have that many options to really, you know, take a stand with their hair and not work and watch all their other friends go ahead and have jobs and live. You know, people had bills to pay, you know.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, good. How's everybody doing?
Good.
It's good to hear from you. I've been taking a social media break for a while to focus on some stuff, but I'm so happy to be back. I want to just say that I think in general, English, when we think about formally written English or what's standardized English, nobody speaks that way because that's called graphilect, meaning it's a written dialect. So white people don't speak in this formal standard English. Black people don't speak in a formal standard English. No one says out of here. Everyone says out of here. Correct?
Mhm.
No one says, when you say the word 10 issues, you could easily be saying tennis shoes.
Right.
No one can hear the difference when you are a native speaker of English, right?
Mhm.
And so you don't have to write that out if you are a speaker of English, of American English.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is that you only sound stupid when you insist on speaking standardized English in all black discourse environments. And it sounds stupid because your audience isn't going to hear you. So like if you're in church and you're like saying, like when the pastor says, y'all don't hear me now. What are you supposed to say when you're in the audience? What's the call and the response? What's the audience say? What does the congregation say back to the pastor? He says, y'all don't hear me now. They say, take your time, right?
Mhm. Mhm. In church, yeah.
Are you supposed to turn around and say, here, here? No, you sound like an idiot, correct? So you don't sound stupid just because you're speaking Black English. You sound stupid if you speak incorrectly to your audience.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? And
Mhm.
so when people try to conflate white talk with black talk, it does not really compute and it doesn't mesh because they don't even call it code meshing and called code switching anymore. They don't necessarily call it code switching. They now call it code meshing because what Black English and all Englishes do, because now we speak of English in a plural sense, right, is that
Mhm.
it pluralizes the language. It enriches the language altogether. It's not just speaking one way or the other. And, like you speak, I mean, even when like my mother went to work and she would speak Black at work, she would still say, how were you? Like she's from Virginia. She would say, how you? She would
Mhm.
still say, how you, when she was on the elevator at work, because she was still like kind of in a colloquial environment with people who she was working with. And when she was at home, sometimes, she spoke, depending on what she was trying to tell us, sometimes she had to speak in, a standard dialect. But for
Yeah.
the most part, people are always switching back and forth and meshing it. So it's
Yeah.
not like you just switch like on, off, on, off. You're meshing. It's almost like, you're like entangling and you're tying it together and then you're like, and it collapses onto itself and then it unfolds over and over again. That's what
And
happens.
it truly depends on your environment. I wouldn't dare go, let's say here in Baltimore, downtown in the hood, Park Heights, Cherry Hill, and have on my work voice. I'm not, hey, how are you? Excuse me. Oh, fuck no. This is the hood. You know what I mean? Like, so is what's up? What because they can peep if you're an outsider, they can peep if you are familiar with this area. So based on your environment, you are gonna make slight changes to make sure you don't stick out like a complete sore thumb. That's another form of survival. And all forms of survival aren't just making sure you don't get carjacked or get robbed or get knocked
Exactly.
upside the head. Other times it's protecting your money and your income and your livelihood for your family. There are different types of survival, but best believe when I go down to the hood, I'm definitely, what's up? What's going on? Excuse me. Can I get past you real quick? Thank you. Or you all right? Like I'm not going down there and speaking proper because it doesn't make sense. It's gonna put more eyes on me, and that don't make sense.
Hmm. And I think another good example is so like my sister's she's a social worker, right? And if she is like trying to help advocate for a family, it's important when she speaks to them to speak in the home discourse, in the kitchen table discourse that, you know, engenders the most comfort and familiarity in order to advocate for that family. So if she's speaking to the family, she'll say something like, do the daddy live in the home? She's in, East Point, Georgia. But when
Mhm.
you better believe when she writes that report and she sends that to the DPS or to the judge or whatever she needs to do to advocate for that family, she'll write the father lives in the home. So she's making that that distinction, that subject verb agreement, and subject verb agreement is like nothing that just Black people do. A lot of it, some of it has to do with Black English. So we have something called final consonant reduction or mid consonant reduction or zero copula. like there's certain or number concord. These are certain things that we do. And really it's because it actually makes the language more efficient, is less character count. There's sometimes language less verbal density that makes the language more efficient for Black people. And I've come from this field, so I can say a few things about it, but without being overwhelming with it. I mean, come on now, like when people want to try to say, um, race makes you smarter, or that's just like, that's really like antiquated thinking. And in terms of how we're talking about, um, you know, how you how you articulate um, your points, it has to be done in order to make it valuable to the people you're talking to, make it meaningful to people you're talking to,
Right.
whoever you're talking to. That's
Right.
the case. And I'm not, just because I'm talking to, like, we're right now in the Black, YouTube sector. I mean, you could still hear my voice, that the intonation of my voice, the inflection of my voice. I still speak very much like a Black woman. I mean, like, that's not, I don't think people are going to mistake me for something different. I've been in places in Europe, and people turned around and said, I thought I heard, because they weren't that used to Black women talking. They said, oh, you sound like Whoopi Goldberg. Like, they just, like, the way it sounded to them as an American Black person speaking English, that's how it comes across. So I just think that, even when we are speaking standard, what's called the standard dialect of English, we don't, we're not doing away with our authenticity, because our intonations are there, our inflections are there. And then there's this other thing called paralinguistic elements of language. And then it's also like, just there's the nonverbal stuff you're saying. Like, you could point with your lips if you Black, or point with your eyes.
Our facial expressions are so unique. Our facial expressions can convey a whole sentence.
And
right?
you are a master of them, by the way. Okay. You are the master. So, like, that's what you're doing. So, like, these are, nonverbal paralinguistic expressions that are very unique to our community. Because, again, when it comes back to survival, we needed to do this for survival. It did not serve us to, like, go all into detail and say this and this and that, and go, and explain things and describe things, and because then guess what happens? If you talk too much, that's your head, right? You're getting lynched, you're getting whooped, you're getting, but your face is getting branded. So it was important that we learned how to communicate things to the inside audience and outside audience with counter discourses that conveyed our real intentions despite what was being said. And so that's where you have this whole notion of semantic inversion, and the way we speak in terms of how we talk to, we say, like, is bad meaning good, right? So you invert the meaning of the word, because if Black is bad and Black is everything poor and Black is everything negative, so of course, in order for us to survive, we have to then turn that against, the power structures, and we have to now say, okay, now we're going to turn that on its head, and we're going to say that everything that you say is good is bad, and everything that we say, everything that you say bad is good, because that is what we had to do to survive, because we were made to be the negative. And another thing I want to say is that whiteness only succeeds when it displaces other things. Whiteness can only be when it, just think about it. Even if you look at the space of when you write on a piece of paper, white only serves the purpose of showing you what is not there. Think about it. I know it might sound a little abstract.
Say it again.
I'm saying, okay, whiteness, the killer application, if you will, the killer app of whiteness is that it shows, it simply, it only gains power by what it displaces and takes away from things. It can't stand on its own. Whiteness has never been able to stand on its own. It can only thrive when it displaces, and it makes it others everything else in its vicinity. Okay. And so it does the same thing with language. So when this last caller was speaking, and I was, I had some, I wanted to, like, sort of, disabuse him of some of those, I don't know. He seems like he was talking a lot about self sabotaging or self-hating belief systems in Black people. and how it impacts us as a group. But it seems like some of those things are very much internalized very often, and we have to really work to educate ourselves against this sort of negative propaganda against our own community. Mm-hmm.
Preach, ma'am. Ma'am. Ma'am.
Thank you.
Preach it. Okay.
All right.
These are the intellectual conversations that I love. I'm so glad I did this video. I said I'm gonna do this video, and ain't nobody gonna show up because I'm not just laughing and joking and kikiing like I usually do. But I'm so glad because this was a very necessary discourse. And then we went from white passing, what is, what isn't, colorism, to verbiage, how to survive as a Black person, regardless of how you look, the difference that your hair and your speech make. Why do we make these differences? If we make these differences, are we trying to be white? Are we trying to be something that we're not? I feel like it's a difference. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you're changing your hair, this, that, you refuse to hang out with Black friends, you like to be that token nigga. And so, you know, you do what you can do to make sure you're the only one, and then you upset if there's another Black person, whatever, you know, that might be trying to be white. But if you somebody like that, just like for me, I like dyeing my tips blonde. It's time for me to get some more honey blonde. Just because I'm getting a little bit of blonde or some blonde streaks in my hair don't mean I'm trying to be white. Absolutely. If I were to cut my locks off today and wear a wig, that doesn't mean that I'm trying to be white. It just means I'm starting a new hair journey, and I don't want y'all to see the shape of my head while I cut my hair off. Don't worry, I ain't trying to do that, but I'm just giving examples. You know, some women may be losing hair. Some women may deal with baldness or alopecia, and they want to wear wigs. And then because they don't have any hair, they might experiment with color. One week, the wig might be red and black. The next week, it might be, and they always mixing it up. Does that mean they trying to be white? No, it means that they're experimenting, and that's a part of their expression. You know, so there's so many different ways to adapt to your environment and express yourself. And we are some pretty innovative and creative people. And just because we experiment with different looks and different textures of hair doesn't mean that we're trying to be them. Absolutely not. I know plenty of women who are proud of who they are, Black women who are proud, but they still get perms, and that's their prerogative. It don't mean they're trying to be white or think like a white person, because they just don't want to deal with the stress. Some people really just don't know how to maintain their hair when it's curly. Me, I got tired of it. That's why I got locks. I'm like, I cannot deal with this. My arms are hurting. I can't be washing and straightening this or making time to go to the hair salon, and she might cancel, and I gotta go to work the next day. It's too much for me. So I said, you know what? My hair is nappy. I'm going to get what I call long naps. I'm going to let my hair be nappy, but it's going to grow out, and they're going to be long individual naps, you know? So that's why I decided to lock my hair, because that's the best thing that I could do for my hair and my capability and the time that I have in my life and how my life is set up. Yep. So, you know,
my daughter, she has long hair, but she almost always, I mean, she has hair down her back. I never had the patience to grow hair like that, but she does every tangle. She goes through every little strand, but you know what? She doesn't wear it out very often. I think that's why her hair is so long. And she also says everybody doesn't get to have my hair. Everyone doesn't deserve it. So I'm not just putting my hair out there in the world for everybody to, you know, put their eyes on or lay their, they don't get it. Like everyone doesn't get that. That's special. And so I appreciate that too. That's a different way of looking at it.
It is. It really is. It's easier. You don't have to deal with it as much. For example, you know, Lovely T always has a wig on. Are you familiar with Lovely T?
I am. I'm very familiar with Lovely T.
Always has a wig on, but I've seen her natural hair a handful of times. Beautiful. It's about, it might even be, because when I see her hair, it looked like it was my length, but it wasn't even stretched. It was like this long. So she wears a wig because she wants to, and she doesn't want to comb through her hair every day. And sometimes not exposing your hair to the elements out in the world every day, it can help strengthen it.
And she's in Minnesota where it's freezing. That is not good for your hair to have your hair out in that cold weather like that. It makes sense. So,
I mean, you know, speaking of Lovely T,
it's time to face it, boo. Your product needs more exposure. If you want to see your ad here on my channel, be sure to shoot an email over to yt.theplainestjane@gmail.com, and let's let's chat. But if you're new in my neighborhood here on YouTube, hey, I'm the Plainest Jane, and I provide coverage and commentary on trending stories, viral events, and Black culture. I definitely appreciate you stopping through and hitting that subscribe button if you'd like more of my particular brand of syrup.
It was a YouTuber, and shout out to her for this good detective work, honey. She's the one who went and was able to put 2 and 2 together. The Plainest Jane. That's the person's name, the Plainest Jane. I couldn't think of what their name was on the podcast, but I wanted to go ahead and shout them out. They're the ones who did the work. All right. So, like I said, shout out to Plainest Jane. She's the one who put that together. So Shekinah was not lying. So when Tiny came back on some, oh, she's making it up, sounded like Tiny's voice to me.
All right, we are back. Everyone's asking for Leo. You go ahead and give him his little pay, honey. He be acting so stuck up sometimes. He's sleepy. You want a treat? You need to find a way to get your butt up here. Okay. Y'all see,
I'm sorry.
He got on his different collar today. Y'all know he usually got on his gold chain. Today he got on his silver Cuban link. Okay. Leo, you need your own emoji. You want your own emoji?
You need to start calling him Diddy. He always trying to be getting up in the video.
I know, right? All up in the videos. It's all about him.
Okay.
Come on, Leo. Okay.
Yeah, I like LVT's content. I like she be predicting stuff. That's what I like about her.
Yeah.
She actually be out here predicting.
She calls that Negro Damas when she predicts stuff and it's accurate. So, all right, now come on, get out the way, buddy. Come on, get down. Come on, come over here. Thank you, buddy. You sleepy? You come on, get your butt
You
out.
see what I just said? I said she be predicting stuff because you know what? She be predicting stuff. That's Black English.
That's how I found out about the Rona, about the panorama. And I was telling my homies that when I think she did a video around January of it didn't pop off until March. And I'm telling my homegirls, they thought I sounded crazy. And I'm like, I'm telling you what's going on in China and da. No,
I'm low key good at that kind of stuff too. I'm just like being able to. Some people can look at trends and assess and just look at all the different patterns around them and then converge. And it's a fine line, right, between being a conspiracist and being someone who can predict trends, right? Yeah. And that's what's so interesting about it, because I think somebody once said, all knowledge is paranoid knowledge.
She has really good discernment. That's what I think. There's so much information out here that it can be overwhelming. You can start falling for false information. You could have a source you've been following and digesting their info, and maybe 90% of the time is correct, and then that source might be wrong, and your discernment might tell you that she has a really wise soul and really good discernment. So
I remember back in like 20, I promise you, I saved it and I time stamped it and I took a picture of it. In 2017, I made a Facebook post and I said this. I said, there's nothing about this presidency that's normal. It will not end in resignation. It will not end in a normal in an impeachment, and it won't end in a normal election. What it's going to end in, I said, it's going to be a hazmat bags will be involved. And I said that in 2017. Hazard material bag. I didn't know if it meant it was going to be like a terrorist. I just knew something, that it was going to be so freakish that it was going to be something we never saw before. And I posted that in 2017. And guess what happened? That presidency ended with hazard material bags.
Oh, wow.
Because you can see things like that when you are paying attention.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on. You definitely enlightened us. You spit a lot of bars just about how we assimilate as Black people, how we evolve. And I do think that this guy is a mess. I want to pet that kitty respectfully. You know what? Get
You know what?
get out of here. Where's Tyra? Where's Tyra? Hold on.
But you're not. Stop it! I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this. When my mother yells at this, it's because she loves me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this. You go to bed at night, you lay there, and you take responsibility for yourself.
I cannot. He is a character. That's the caller that called in earlier today.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a really good enlightening show. I do look forward to you calling in on future topics. I would love for you to become a frequent caller of the show because you have, you know, just so much, and it's edifying, you know what I mean? And so I think it's a great balance and a great, because I do remember you calling in before. Can't remember what the topic was, but
it was when Tevin Samuels.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that.
It was. I remember that. It was May.
So yeah, I do appreciate it. Thank you all so much. I said I was gonna go live again after this, and I'm like, is that a mistake? Okay. I don't know. I'll figure out if I'm gonna go live again after this. Because I'm like, do I need to go to bed? I'll figure it out. Thank you for calling in. You have an amazing night. And as a matter of fact, can you message me on Instagram? Do you have my IG?
I think I do. I think we have each other's in IG. Yep. I'll hit you there.
Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, it's the same as my YouTube name here. So I appreciate you so much.
All right. Bye.
All righty. Good night. All right. What a great, fulfilling show this was. Okay. Now, it's still 230 of y'all here. Okay. And I only got 168 thumbs up. Come on now. Y'all don't make me ill. Y'all gonna really, like, who do I need to kick off the bus? Because it's no reason all of y'all should be here and I only got 168 thumbs up. And what's going on with Kevin Samuels anyway? That's the real question. Okay. There's somebody all on his channel right now. And I looked at the trademark and everything, baby. It's some funny business. But y'all need to stop. Y'all need to stop. Look, y'all ain't got to send a cash app. Okay. I ain't get a cash app today. And that's okay. That's okay. The least y'all can do is pay y'all fare and hit the damn thumbs up button. All right. Hit the button. What are y'all waiting for? I'm about to throw y'all off the bus like Jazzy Jeff used to get thrown out of the Will Smith joint. Stop playing with me. Hit that damn button.
Y'all need to stop. Y'all need to grow up. Grow up. Tired of telling y'all to grow up. Y'all need to stop it. I'm tired of it, y'all. You ain't finna work me out.
Don't act like I haven't educated y'all on how to support this show for free. A like is free. Subscribing to make sure you don't miss out on any of this other syrup. Black news, celebrity entertainment. It's free. So what y'all scared for? If you feeling froggy, then jump. I know I done educated y'all on how to support my show without spending no money.
Education, special education, psychiatric medication, juvenile incarceration, emotional frustration, and premature extermination.
Okay? Stop playing with the kid. I don't ask for much. I appreciate likes. Aw, shout out to P Funky for the $25 cash app. I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay? Thank you so much. Okay? This has been a really good show. And I'm so glad we got through the first caller. See, I've been working on patience. Y'all know I used to go off on callers a little bit. I've been getting better. First caller, I'm like, sir, am I gonna have to cuss you out? I was about to have to. Baby, I thought I was going to have to hang up on that mother. But I said no, patience. Patience is very key. No, dialogue is important. And sometimes I can have a short fuse, and sometimes I can be so sassy. But I'm like, you know what? The guy hasn't disrespected me. He's just doubling down on points that don't make sense. Or he's like not intentionally trying not to listen or understand. I don't know. But God is working on me. Okay? Okay. He said, I thought I was going to start whispering. Baby, when I start whispering, you know it's over. When I start whispering, baby, we through. Because it's for me to come back down from whispering. Hey, how you doing, little dummy? Let me whisper in your ear. Tell you something that you don't like to hear. We had to survive. So, yeah. I had the patience. Thank y'all for seeing the work that I'm putting in. Okay? Thank y'all. This was a nice live. Am I tired? Do I feel like listening to R. Kelly's Love Child? I do have some more Jaguar news, child. I feel like doing it tonight. If I do this tonight, I might not give y'all live tomorrow. I'll figure it out when I get off here. Take another bite of my cheesesteak. What time is it? 2 o'clock. I think I'm going to do it. It's risky, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then we can talk about Rachel Dolezal tomorrow. So I love you all so much. All right. Make sure y'all stay beautiful, black, and blessed. As always, I'm sending you positivity, good vibes, and all that stuff. Thank you for watching. Thank you for checking the community tab. Thank you for watching my videos that aren't as popular, that are about Black history, that is teaching you about Black history. And those videos barely hit 1,000 views, and they damn sure don't hit 2,000 views. So I do appreciate all of you all of my stickies who really support my content and support my mission and what I stand for, even though it's changing a smidge. And I'm always kind of trying to recalibrate the balance and what I'm trying to do. And I feel like it can be confusing to you all sometimes, but really the way that you all engage with me in the chat, it makes me feel like y'all get me. Y'all get me. Some days I want to talk about celebrity stuff. Other days I want to be more serious. And sometimes I think when I'm being more serious, I feel like ain't nobody gonna watch, right? But y'all get me. And the fact that people called in and we actually had an edifying conversation, even though I didn't agree with the bulk of what the first caller was trying to say, I do still feel like it was valuable discourse. And it's something that people can learn from. Whether people agree with me or him, neither of us, either one, I feel like that dialogue is important and it has a place to help us learn and understand one another better and to reach solutions as far as how to survive better in the Black community, right? Or how to understand one another better, or just how to present ourselves within the hierarchy. That will it ever be dismantled? The world will never know, you know? Find out on the next episode of Dragon Ball. Sticky. Bye. I'm clearly getting sleepy. I love you all so much. I'm going to catch you all in the next video. And y'all have a lovely night. I still feel like I have a lot of energy, so I might come back live. Turn your notifications on and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you soon. Deuces.
But that's it. If you want to catch more of my commentary on Black culture or vital and trending information, be sure to subscribe by hitting that little circle in the middle of the screen, or I'll catch you in one of these rectangles to the right in another video. I'll see you there.